Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Movie Mockery. I'm your host, Billy, and today I want to let you all get to know me a bit better since this is the very first episode. So today I'm going to be going through my top 10 favorite movies of all time. This is by no means a critical ranking, as these are just the movies that I like the most, the movies that I go back to rewatch the most. So here they are, my top 10 favorite movies of all time. At number 10, we have the original Scream. One of the best horror movies, in my opinion, the best horror movie ever made. Horror is one of my favorite genres, and Scream takes horror to a different level, making it almost a commentary on horror. The cast is amazing. The whodunit is great, although when I watched the movie, I already knew who the killer was.
Surprise, Sydney.
This movie is just a classic. I love going back, rewatching this movie. Actually, I didn't watch it until just recently. I used to be a bigger fan of the Halloween franchise, which you can see back there. I have my Michael Myers mask. I had some friends tell me that Scream was a much better franchise, so I went, watched that franchise, and now that is one of my favorite, if not my favorite horror movie franchise, and Scream is now my favorite horror movie of all time, sitting at number 10 in my top 10 movies of all time. At number 9, I have Whiplash, one of Damien Chazelle's many masterpieces. I myself am a drummer, so it is a movie that I can rewatch. It connects to me. I understand wanting to be the best at drumming, wanting to learn, wanting to be good. And it's also a great movie. It's anxiety-filled. Just a great movie. The performances are amazing. Obviously, J.K. Simmons is amazing in this movie. Miles Teller does a great job. It is an amazing movie, an amazing rewatch. I love this movie as a drummer, and I love this movie as a film person. At number 8, we have Fight Club. Fight Club is kind of your stereotypical guys' night film. I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan, and this is one of my favorite Brad Pitt roles, although not my favorite. We'll get to that later in the list. Fight Club is one of those movies that, when it first came out, wasn't the biggest success, and now has a huge cult following, myself being a part of that following. Fight Club was based on a book that came out years ago, and it's a great movie with great performances by Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, and also one of my favorite, who I think is one of the most underrated actors of all time, Jared Leto. Fight Club is a great movie, has a great soundtrack. It also has a great underlying message if you look at the movie the right way. So that's number 8 at my list, Fight Club. And at number 7, I have a more recent movie, one that not as many people liked when it came out, Babylon, another Damien Chazelle movie. Babylon was a movie that when it came out, I think it only made somewhere around $3 million at the box office. Personally, I love Babylon. I took my fiance to go watch it when it came out in theaters a couple years back, and within the first couple minutes, she looked at me and said, "What did you bring me to?" If you've seen the movie, you know why she said that. Those opening scenes are a bit crazy, but the movie itself is a great study of an actor who's trying to adjust to the times in Hollywood, another actor who's just coming up, and then somebody else who's trying to get themselves involved in the movie industry, and just kind of the rise and fall of these characters throughout 1920s, 1930s Hollywood. And that ending scene is one of the most explosive and amazing ending scenes I've ever seen in movie history. At number 6, we have a movie from my favorite director of all time, Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino. Pulp Fiction is one of those quintessential crime movies that pretty much everybody has heard of. One of my biggest jealousies in life is the fact that my mom watched the movie when she was young. She watched it in theaters. I never got that opportunity. Obviously, I'm too young for that, but it is one of my favorite movies, a movie I find myself constantly going back and rewatching. The performances in this movie are fantastic. You got Samuel L. Jackson, who deserved the Oscar for this movie. John Travolta, who was coming off a career low, who then revitalized his career through this movie. You have other great performances in this movie, such as Bruce Willis. You also have Uma Thurman. This movie is just jam-packed with a great cast, jam-packed with all sorts of action, storytelling, great dialogue, as any Tarantino movie should, and also you get the bit of violence in there that's fun. In 5th place, we have the movie that kind of got me off the course of just watching franchise films. Now, I'm a big Marvel fan, I'm a big DC fan, I'm a big Star Wars fan, but the first movie to actually get me off of just watching these franchise films was The Wolf of Wall Street by Martin Scorsese. Now, a lot of people obviously have Goodfellas, Taxi Driver as their favorite Martin Scorsese films. But for me, Wolf of Wall Street is elevated simply because it introduced me to this whole new world of movies. It was the first movie I had ever seen Leonardo DiCaprio in, and he quickly rose to one of my favorite actors of all time. Wolf of Wall Street is simply one of those movies that I would put on with friends, and we watched the entire 3 hours of it while having a great time. It's a humorous movie, it's a drama movie, it's a crime movie, it's everything. It's got an amazing cast, and it was the movie that personally, for me, introduced me to a whole new side of movies. At number 4, we've got my favorite superhero movie of all time, Spider-Man No Way Home. The theater experience for this movie will never be matched, possibly ever. Maybe Secret Wars, who knows. Spider-Man No Way Home, though, did the impossible, bringing all 3 Spider-Men into one movie and having it be a coherent and logical story. Not some cheap gimmick. And it also brought in all of the legacy villains, except for Rhino. But it brought in all of these legacy villains from previous Spider-Man movies, brought in the previous Spider-Man, and it worked. It was a great movie, and a lot of people like to criticize the beginning of the movie for being a weird startup. But for what we ended up getting in the final product, I think that beginning scene is perfectly fine, especially when we have such great payoff, such a great kind of new beginning for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And this movie really kind of proved to me that Tom Holland can be a great Spider-Man, not just Iron Boy Jr. But No Way Home, for me, is my favorite superhero movie, which is why it sits at my 4th favorite movie of all time. And my 3rd place of all time, the bronze medal, goes to Inglourious Basterds by Quentin Tarantino. At one point, actually, this used to be my favorite Quentin Tarantino film, until some recent thought when I changed my recent Tarantino film. Inglourious Basterds is undisputably, though, Quentin Tarantino's masterpiece, critically speaking. You have multiple different languages. You have, obviously, Christoph Waltz's amazing performance. The amazing opening scene, 20 minutes long, has you on the edge of your seat. Just a great tension-building scene.
You're sheltering enemies of the state, are you not?
Yes.
Brad Pitt's in the movie. He's amazing. Still not my favorite Brad Pitt role, though. Inglourious Basterds is just a great movie with a lot of great tension building, great storytelling, and a great revisionist history movie. To me, this movie was another one that introduced me to a new side of cinema. This was the first Quentin Tarantino movie I had ever seen, so it meant a lot to me. I still go back and rewatch this one quite often. That ending scene in the theater is explosive. It's fun. It's amazing. It's one of those movies that I love going back and rewatching just to see how much I still like it. And number 2 for me is kind of an odd pick. It's a movie that not many people like. That is the new Haunted Mansion movie by Disney. On top of being a movie nerd, I am also a very big Disney nerd. Haunted Mansion is one of those rides growing up I loved. I still do love it. So when this movie was announced, I was extremely excited because the original Eddie Murphy movie strayed a lot from kind of the story and a lot of the aspects of the ride, where this movie brings it in, and it's just every scene you notice something. If you're a fan, obviously, you notice something different from the ride that they brought into the movie to kind of build on this world. And although it's not a perfect movie, the story that they chose was great for what they could do with showing kind of the main aspects of the ride. Scene like the stretching room, even bringing in Jared Leto as the Hatbox Ghost, which I thought was an amazing addition to the movie. Great for the villain. The movie is just very much a love letter to the fans of the Haunted Mansion. And this movie just kind of brought what I wanted out of a Haunted Mansion movie. And at number 1, my favorite movie of all time, my favorite Brad Pitt role of all time, my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio role of all time, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. As a movie fan, this movie means a lot to me. I love this movie. It shows perfectly the 1960s Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino does amazing at bringing sort of that old Hollywood back to life in movie form. And you just can feel it when you're riding through the car with Brad Pitt's character, when you're walking down the street with Margot Robbie's character. It is a great movie, and it also has a great revisionist history ending. The movie has kind of a slower build-up, more of a day-in-the-life movie, and then you get to the ending, and finally it's the release of there's the Tarantino ending I wanted. But the movie is amazing. The performances are amazing. And in my opinion, it's my favorite Tarantino movie, my favorite Brad Pitt movie, my favorite DiCaprio movie, and also my favorite movie of all time. I love the soundtrack. I go back and listen to it. I have the CD in my car of the soundtrack. I listen to it all the time. I go back and rewatch this movie all the time. I put the movie on in the background when I just want some noise on because I love this movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite movie of all time. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite movies of all time. This was just kind of a video so then you can know me a bit better. In the future, I'll be doing movie news, movie reviews, a bit of everything. But thank you for tuning in and welcome to Movie Mockery.